Hello YouTube, Sp4zie coming at you. This video is sponsored by Nakon and the game Ravenswatch, a top-down action roguelike that I think might tickle your fancy. Do you guys remember the game Curse of the Dead Gods? I played it quite a bit here and over at my live stream. This game is made by the same developer, and boy does it show in the best possible ways. Ravenswatch is currently in early access, and in this video I'm gonna give you guys the rundown, what the game is about, what I think about the game, what I like, what I think the game can improve on, and hopefully by the end of this vid you'll know whether this is a game for you or not. And if it is, there's going to be a link in the description and in the pinned comments that you can click to check the game out. I highly recommend that you do. You know, it's always a little naughty pleasure as a YouTuber when you get sponsored by a game that you probably wanted to check out anyways. This is definitely one of those cases. Let's dive into it. The basics of the game. In Ravenswatch, you take the role of a character based on old folktales and legends. Geppetto is the latest character, for instance, and you've got Aladdin in the game, and it features a kind of cool, dark theme on these classics. For instance, you've got Scarlet, or Little Red Riding Hood, who transforms into a wolf at night and gives you a whole new set of abilities depending on what time it is in game. The setting is that the world is corrupted by nightmares, and it's your job to stop it by killing them. You're dropped on the map with your full set of abilities, and as you fight your way through the different enemies and objectives, you earn ways to modify these abilities, making each run a little different than the last depending on what you pick up. Enemy position and events are also randomized for each run. And the interesting little twist here compared to a lot of roguelikes is that you're on a race against the clock. After a set amount of time, you will have to face the boss. You're teleported to him, and depending on how well you've done up until that point, you'll either be geared up for success or have a really bad time. Oh, not very good.
Holy shit!
I'm dead.
Oh no! Oh no!
What's happening? Oh, okay. Why are we laughing about it? With the latest update, the Storm Island, there are 2 maps and 2 bosses in total, and 7 playable characters for you to learn and master. Like I said, the game is in early access, so lots of content is planned for the future. And finally, this game can be played solo or up to 4-player co-op. I've had experience with both, but most of the footage you're gonna see is with me playing with my 2 friends, Janipir and Peepwood. That's the basics. I have a lot of things to say. Let's dive in. The characters. The characters in Ravenswatch all have very distinct abilities and play very differently.
I want to play Pied Piper.
Okay. What do you want to play, Janipir?
The Peeper.
I want to be the peeper.
Oh, you want to be Peeper? Okay, you be Peeper.
Yeah, the peeper.
I want to be the dude with a sword and a dragon.
No, dude, that was my second pick.
No, it clearly has to be me. I myself have played mainly this character called Beowulf. He is a melee fighter who uses his little pet dragon to spice things up on the battlefield. You activate it to empower your next normal ability. For instance, his right click sends out a shockwave that deals damage, but if I empower it with my worm, it will now deal more damage and set people on fire. He also has a whirlwind spin attack thingy. Oh look, it's Garen, yeah. And he has a block ability that he can use to block things. And finally, his ultimate. He sends out the dragon to literally go Khaleesi on the whole area. It spews fires, it's fire everywhere, it's great. Now, like I said, the power-ups you get during a run really do change how your character plays.
I just keep picking up the ones that aren't cursed.
Nice and safe in the roguelike. One run, I got a power-up that gave me a bunch of attack speed and crit on my normal basic attack. So to be the most effective damage-wise, I had to use my abilities less. I just ran around and left-click and used my abilities for utility mainly. And then in another run, I went all in on my shield ability, turning me instead into a tank that wanted to take a bunch of hits and then heal up to full by blocking the key abilities from the enemies.
Your heal is insane, Sp4zie.
Yes, I heal my full life back. And I'm back to full.
Crazy.
Oh, so cool. It was really good fun exploring what happened when you equip certain things during the run. Having characters with skills that are fun to learn and cool to master is key to make a good roguelike like this, and Ravenswatch delivers on both. And speaking of mastery, the combat. In a game of mainly fighting, combat is of course very important. In order for it to be a fun game, it has to feel good to swing your sword or whatever it is that you use as a weapon.
It's the same cut.
I like that when you shoot out one little note again.
Yeah.
Luckily in Ravenswatch, it feels like the developers has taken all the things that made Curse of the Dead Gods so good, then given it a little tweak, a little facelift here, and then just gone, we don't need to fix what ain't broken. Ravenswatch combat is one you have to master. You can't just go in and click buttons. If you do, you're gonna get punished, and quite hard. But the numbers will count for nothing. I went in. And quite hard. The first time you go at it, you'll get smacked. But as you start learning what your character does, and also very importantly, what the enemies do, you'll go from getting destroyed to destroying, and it's just the best feeling. I like to describe the combat of Ravenswatch as flashy, but yet heavy and deliberate. A lot of the damage you'll take because you're kind of winding up an ability that you shouldn't be winding up at this point, and you can't get out of the way before the enemy slaps you. You gotta think, not button mash, to be successful. If you compare it to a game like Hades, a game in the same genre, where actions are much faster, very quick and snappy, I'd say Ravenswatch is more slow and methodical. And here I really think it depends on what you like the most. I am personally a really big fan of the combat in Ravenswatch. When it clicks, it just feels so incredibly satisfying and good.
I don't have my ultimate yet.
Come on, come on, come on!
This is it, this is it!
Come on, come on! Yeah! The look. I really like how Ravenswatch looks, partly because I think the art style is just pleasing on the eye. Perhaps I do bring a bit of prior happy feels from Curse of the Dead Gods, which looked very similar. But also, I think the art style works in the game's favor. The bright abilities from both friend and foe in this game stands out versus the dark background. They puke a lot, these guys. They must be really hungover. And the importance of this gameplay-wise shouldn't be understated, I think, because it makes the game feel fair. When you take damage, you know where that damage came from, even if there was a lot going on your screen. Oh, shit! Got birded. And in a game where you get quite punished if you don't know what the enemies do, the last thing you want is for the art style to stand in the way of clarity. In a roguelike where death means you start over, I hate it when I see game over and I don't really know what I died from. No, in this game, it's clear. The art style does the job, and it does it well. And it looks very good. And speaking of clarity, I also want to quickly mention that the description of abilities, upgrades, and items are also clean and very straightforward. If you played 1 or 2 video games before, it's not going to be very hard to understand what an ability does and when to use it, which lets you spend more time doing what's fun in this game, which is fighting pigs holding spears. Now, there are 2 main things that I would want from this game. So let's start with the first one. The bosses. I did not particularly enjoy the boss fights in this game. They were okay. But see, I went back. I reminisced about my experience with Curse of the Dead Gods. And man, those were some good bosses, yeah? I mean, there was the old lady with a backpack who was going like... Oh, my bad. And then there was the electric guy, and he was all like... And of course, the dog summoning guy who was like... Oh, look at his HP, dude! He was fun. The boss fights in Ravenswatch aren't bad, but they're just not as good as those bosses, and I don't really know why that is. They're a good challenge, and you have to pay attention, and if you do, you can even, like, abuse some of their moves with your skill set. T for heal. The only thing I can say that I specifically am not a fan of regarding the boss fights is that when you've done something specific, you've filled up some sort of criteria, the boss falls to the ground and you can punish it for a couple of seconds. And this quickly takes some of the good complexity out of the game and narrows it down to save all important cooldowns for when we staggered him. And I think that's a bit of a shame, honestly. There are 2 bosses in the game and both of them have this. And speaking of the 2 bosses, one more thing I'd like to see. More content. At the moment, the phrase early access is just confusing. I don't know what you guys feel. You know, some games, they come out and they're clearly incomplete. They're literally early access. You're paying for a product that will be finished later. And then a lot of other games come out and they say they're early access, but you're like, nah, this is a full game. And from this confusion, I feel like it's important to state that this game is the former of the two. This is a game that isn't complete. After you progressed through the 2 maps and beaten the 2 bosses, which, by the way, is kind of hard, you unlock some things, and then you're taken back to the main menu, where you can go again with some new difficulty settings. And the game definitely needs more than that. A longer loop, perhaps, more enemies, more items and upgrades, more variety, more content. Basically more of the awesome things that the game already has. The most important things are all there though. You know, how good the combat feels to execute, how good the game looks, and how varied the runs can be. And you can squeeze a lot of value out of this game already, especially if you want to check out all the characters and enjoy them with your friends, you know.
I'm the edgiest of orphans.
I used to be a rat as well, and then I was transformed into a human.
What is that accent?
Now I control the rats.
Oh.
Alright.
I'm Bears Man! I slice people up! It's not a bad bargain, in my opinion. But in this case, you are buying a literal early access. And if that frightens you, you should wait until it's fully released. I certainly won't. This game is great. I'm a big fan, and I can't wait to see what more we get. If you think you're like me and you want to play and support this game, the link, like I said, in the description and pinned comment. Thank you, Nancom, for sponsoring this video, and thank you for watching. If you did enjoy it, drop a like. It helps to get the video out to more people. Do you agree with my points? Have you played the game? What do you think? Drop it in the comments. I'll be down there reading and replying to you. It's always nice to hear what you guys think. Click here to subscribe to the channel. Click here if you want to watch my somewhat disappointed review of Palia. It's a good video. I think you'll like it. Go and watch. And that's it. This has been Sp4zie, and I'm out.